everyone. I'm so glad to see all y'all beautiful faces today on an afternoon at noon in the city of Inglewood. Always up to some good, right? And I'm excited today to have this conversation with Jasmine Ladouceur.
Ladouceur, yes.
Yes, Ladouceur, and she's going to be sharing with us about her experience, her wine journey, and her journey to entrepreneurship. And y'all love wine? How many of y'all love wine? Woo! Yes, and it's important for us to learn, especially as people of color, about the culture of wine and also the education. So Jasmine, welcome once again. We're glad to have you here today in our community to share your story. So tell us a little bit about your wine journey.
So thank you everyone for being here. My wine journey started formally in 2021. That's after the death of my mother. I was really thinking about what I wanted to pursue in my life. I was ready for a change. I grew up with wine and consumed and enjoyed in the household, so I didn't really have any formal education, but definitely had a background in appreciating wines. A girlfriend of mine wanted to go on a trip to Napa for her birthday, and this wasn't my first time in Napa at that point in time, but this time was different. We had a really great time visiting different tasting rooms, and one tasting room in particular we visited and I fell in love. There was a huge selection of all of these wines, and there was only one producer of color. And I was a little taken aback by it because I knew that there are a lot of amazing producers, wine producers of color. And even though that producer that was part of the selection was one of my favorites, I sort of had my, as Oprah says, my aha moment. And that's when I wanted to recreate the experience, the wine tasting experience, spotlighting BIPOC vintners, wineries, and wine brands of color. So that's Black owned, Indigenous owned, Asian owned, Latin owned, all wine brands, winemakers of color. And from there, I just sort of took off with the idea of trying to what that experience would look like for me, for my community, for our culture. And I sort of launched into my own sort of self-education journey, and that started with wine production. So going to harvest, doing harvest. And harvest is the experience of going out to the wineries, and you're during a pretty tight window of 3 to 4 months, and you're learning all about the production side of wine. So you're out in the vineyards, kind of having your Lucille Ball moment where you're stomping on the grapes. You're learning about fermentation. You're working with all the barrels. You're prepping. You're sanitizing. Winemaking, although we see it on this side of the experience as very glamorous and having fun, it's a lot of hard work that goes into it, and that's what I really wanted to get into. I wanted to learn about the vineyards, the soil. And a lot of winemaking, and you probably hear from winemakers, is it's about sanitation, cleaning. Wine is an agricultural product, so there's a lot of sanitation that goes into that. Cleaning of the barrels, cleaning of everything for the most part when you're in a winery. And that's sort of how I started my journey, was through harvest and at a family-owned winery, well-known family-owned winery in Napa. And got that sort of hands-on, nitty-gritty experience, which was really great. And then from there, I've just sort of been continuing my journey through more of like a self-directed sort of study. I'm very much a visual learner, so I learned through tasting wines, going to different wine shops, tasting different wines, different varietals, going to and starting to be a part of the industry. So I was invited to a lot of industry events. So tasting and learning from different producers and just sort of going on my own journey of education in wine and getting me closer to the actual final sort of iteration of Noir, which will be a wine shop here in Los Angeles.
Awesome. Nice. So I want to dive a little bit deeper. A lot of times, our story is filled, we all have a story, right? And our stories are filled with ups and downs, right? Very layered. And I want to reflect back on your connection with your mother and how that connection with your mom and to her passing, we want to honor her, of course, but how that led to your aha moment. Because oftentimes, you know, we all have this in our life where when life changes, it often causes us to reflect on who we are and what we really want, especially when we have someone that passes away. So let's talk about your mom. Let's honor her and say her name, and then also tell us how that led to your aha moment.
Well, I'm drinking her favorite wine, a favorite varietal of hers, which was Chardonnay. And again, so I grew up with wine in the home. It was my mother. It was having those memories of her having her girlfriends come over to the house and them catching up, just simply catching up with one another over a bottle of wine. And you know, as we call every one of our mother's friends auntie. So seeing the aunties come over the house and hi auntie such and such, hi auntie such and such, and really seeing them connect with one another and how a bottle of wine was that facilitator of that connection and sort of helps to kind of lower our guards and just really share and connect with one another. And it was, I now have that as a core memory. At the time, it was just, you know, sort of normal seeing, you know, friends come over to the house and then catching up with one another. But now it's a core memory because she's no longer here. So I get to keep that, and that's sort of my impetus and my reminder of how special wine is. Yes, it's a luxury product, but it also is so much more than that. And it's the connection, it's the community that really has drawn me into it. It's this, seeing your beautiful faces here in support, learning about new wines, tasting new wines that you probably hadn't tried before. And my mother is my guiding light in this, and yeah, I'm really honored and proud that this is the path I've taken, and I know she's, you know, looking down on me and supporting me.
So prior to you starting your wine journey of entrepreneurship, before your mom passed, were you thinking about wine? What were you doing? How did you jump into it?
Wine was not, I didn't think about wine professionally. It was just, again, my mother enjoyed everything from Andre to Dom Perignon, right? So like, it's all about, to me, and that also is kind of like the approach that I've taken in wine and really wanting to share that with everyone. It's about an approachable yet elevated wine tasting experience, and knowing that as Black people, as a culture, as people of color, like, luxury is part of our birthright. Luxury is part of who we are, and not to shy away from that. But also, wine traditionally can be a very pretentious sort of industry, and people can feel very intimidated by wine. And my goal with Noir is to make wine more approachable, make it easier to consume, to enjoy, to learn about. I don't want you to be intimidated by wine. If you only are drinking just the same bottle for the past, I don't know, however long, and you're a little too shy to venture out, like, you're perfect for me to sort of like get to you and say, hey, let me, you know, educate you on this wine. Maybe, you know, I want to encourage you to try something else, and let's develop your palate a little bit more if you're open to it. Because if you're drinking wine already, that means you have the curiosity, right? So it's about an approachable wine tasting experience, bringing down all the stuffiness, the pretentiousness, the intimidation by it, and really wanting to leave you empowered. Because for the longest time, I was relying on my wine friend to tell me, oh, well, what should I be drinking, or what should I be ordering? And when you don't have that friend next to you, then, and you're in a restaurant ordering, or you're going to a wine shop, you're thinking, well, okay, well, where do I even begin? So that also is sort of the impetus and the mission on what I'm doing in wine. It's to leave you feeling empowered, and knowing that you can trust your palate. You know what you enjoy drinking. You're not, and one of the questions I usually get at different tastings is, oh, well, what would you recommend? And usually I say, well, what do you like? Because it's not what I enjoy, because what I enjoy might be totally different from what you enjoy drinking in wine. So it's all about the empowerment aspect of that for me, and an approachable wine tasting experience.
That's amazing. You had an aha moment, like you said, you've been to Napa many times, but there was this one aha moment that was life-changing for you that kind of shaped and curated, when we're talking about wine, who you are today. Talk about that aha moment that you had.
So that aha moment was, as I shared, at the tasting room, and I only saw one producer of color. And that day, that moment, that trip to Napa was different because that was after my mother had passed back in 2018 to cancer. And that day, I remember wearing one of her blouses, and I sort of, I have those memories of her and sort of honor her in my way. And I was wearing her blouse that day, and I was receiving sort of like all these different signs, and I knew that her presence was there with me. And we were in that tasting room, and all the sort of aha moments that the idea really came to light, and it was very clear. It was almost kind of like not to sound whatever, but it was like a vision. Like I had it, I could see it, I could see what I wanted to create, and what it would look like, and it was sort of like a blessing that I was being given in that moment, and I took it, and I was overwhelmed. I was amongst friends, so it was just great. Anytime, if you guys have ever visited a winery, you know how fun that experience is. You're relaxing, you're enjoying the wines. The wines always seem to taste better at a winery. I don't know what it is, it's the environment. You're just, you're swirling, chit-chatting, laughing, having a good time, and it was very much that experience, and I left sort of feeling full. My cup was full that day, and I knew that that's what I wanted to pursue, and and I just sort of ran with it. I'm a Capricorn, so usually everything is very planned out. I can be very type A, and for this, I kind of threw all my eggs in this basket and knew that this is going to be what I pursue. So
wow. So
yeah,
you met your purpose that day.
I guess so. I feel like we can have many purposes and passions, and this is definitely one that came to me, and I'm very grateful for it because the journey has been wild in so many beautiful ways.
That's beautiful. I love that you did. And so you talked about your journey of entrepreneurship. Let's talk about your journey.
Then from here in wine, entrepreneurship is a whole different beast, a whole different sort of makeup in terms of a career path. You're the boss, and as the boss, you are wearing so many hats, and you're your own accountant for the most part. Until you grow to a certain level, you're your own assistant. You're your own marketing. You're everything, and so really having to learn all of these different areas. In addition to the creative part, because it was the creative part, it was the wine, the educational part of wine, it was the travel that spoke to me, it was the community and connecting with others, all of that spoke to me. So you have to learn to sort of balance what your zone of genius is in your business, and then all the other stuff that I may not necessarily like to do, accounting, bookkeeping. I don't like doing all of that, but I try and stay in my zone of genius. But you have to learn all of those things until you're growing your business to a state where you can outsource those things. But the journey has been very interesting. I've been really intentional about the organizations that I align myself with. So in terms of like mentorship programs that I'm a part of in wine specifically, in terms of educational programs like Wine Unified that I'm a part of, that has really been supportive in my academic pursuits in wine and my wine education. The African American Association of Vintners, they're a nonprofit organization, the collective, that is over all of the Black winemakers in California, across the nation. They have provided me a scholarship also in terms of my education in wine, and other organizations that I'm a part of that I have aligned myself with because of the community, because of the education that I'm trying to seek out, and so many other benefits that come with that in those organizations. That's really been important to me because, especially as a Black woman in wine, you need that support system. You need that community. And when I was in Napa for Harvest, that was really when I built my wine family, as I called him, and that has been crucial in making connections in terms of for business opportunities, but also just learning more and having that encouragement of while you're on your journey, and that's been really important, and I'm so grateful for that.
Yeah. And we all know that the entrepreneurial journey, for those that are entrepreneurs, it's not an easy journey, but it's a very hard, purpose-filled journey that we all share, those that are entrepreneurs. So you curate these events. Let's talk about the events you curate, the name of your company, and what type of events you curate.
Currently working B2B, so business to business with a lot of nonprofits, art galleries, fine dining experiences. We have some friends in the house with Black Pot Supper Club, where I'll curate the wine selections to pair with the food courses. Also consulting with other businesses, restaurants in their beverage program, so making sure that there's a nice array of BIPOC winemakers on the wine list, and also consulting and working with clients, private clients in their home for events that they host.
Well, we want to give a toast to you, Jasmine. We think you are an amazing, beautiful human being. Let's give her a round of applause.